Revolutions have erupted with uncanny precision, seemingly out of nowhere. The tides of change, sweeping aside monarchs, emperors, and dictators alike, have often been attributed to the will of the people. But what if behind these seismic shifts stood an enigmatic and unseen hand, an organization dedicated to orchestrating regime changes across centuries and continents? This is the whispered legacy of the Red Hand Society, a clandestine group rumored to have played a pivotal role in some of history's most defining revolutions. The very name of the Red Hand Society invokes imagery of blood-stained rebellion, suggesting both ruthless efficiency and an unwavering dedication to their cause. Their origins remain obscured by the fog of time, with conflicting accounts placing their inception anywhere from the fall of the Roman Republic to the upheavals of the French Revolution. The common thread in all these stories, however, is their guiding principle, a belief that society must be periodically torn down and rebuilt to maintain balance, an ideology that echoes the philosophies of both radical revolutionaries and Machiavellian power brokers. Some historians believe the Red Hand Society traces its roots back to the secretive Roman factions that plotted against Julius Caesar in 44 BCE. The assassination, while publicly attributed to a coalition of senators known as the Liberatores, bore hallmarks of the kind of meticulous planning and shadow manipulation later associated with the Red Hand. Whether or not the group existed at this stage remains a matter of speculation, but records from the Middle Ages contain cryptic references to a manus rubrum, a Latin term meaning red hand. These references often appear in documents detailing uprisings against feudal lords and monarchs, suggesting an early pattern of intervention in political upheavals. By the 17th century, with Europe embroiled in religious conflicts and power struggles, rumors of a clandestine network working behind the scenes became more pronounced. The English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, the Fronde uprisings in France, 1648 to 1653, and the countless revolts against the Habsburgs all displayed signs of external influence. Some researchers argue that the Red Hand Society was actively involved, subtly guiding revolutionary factions, funding dissidents, and feeding propaganda to fuel discontent against ruling elites. The 18th century was marked by the explosion of revolutionary sentiment, culminating in the French Revolution of 1789. The storming of the Bastille, the execution of Louis XVI, and the Reign of Terror led by Robespierre all seemed to unfold with an almost preordained inevitability. Some conspiracy theorists argue that such coordinated chaos was not merely the result of spontaneous public outrage, but the meticulous design of a hidden hand. In recently discovered personal correspondences between radical Jacobin leaders, there are mentions of an invisible force ensuring the guillotine never rests. Some believe this could have been an indirect reference to the Red Hand Society. Others point to the sudden rise and fall of factions within revolutionary France, noting how the tides of power shifted at seemingly opportune moments. Was the Red Hand subtly orchestrating these movements, ensuring no single faction grew too powerful before toppling them in favor of another? The 19th century witnessed revolutions sweeping across Europe and the Americas with a fervor rarely seen before. The Napoleonic Wars had left the continent in turmoil, and in the decades that followed, nationalist uprisings and calls for democracy shook old empires to their core. The revolutions of 1848, often called the Springtime of Nations, saw coordinated revolts erupt in nearly every major European power, from France and Germany to Italy and Austria. While many attribute this to rising nationalist and liberal sentiments, others believe the Red Hand Society played a role in stoking the flames of unrest. Across the Atlantic, revolutions also reshaped the Americas. From the independence movements led by Simón Bolívar in South America to the abolitionist and secessionist conflicts that led to the American Civil War, the influence of a guiding hand has been suggested. Some argue that the Red Hand Society, with its extensive underground network, provided intelligence, funds, and strategic guidance to those who sought to overturn existing regimes. If the Red Hand Society had exerted its influence in earlier revolutions, the 20th century offered them an unparalleled opportunity. The Russian Revolution of 1917, one of the most significant upheavals of the modern era, bears the same hallmarks of past Red Hand interventions. Lenin's rapid ascent, the execution of the Romanov dynasty, and the eventual rise of the Soviet Union all occurred within a few short years. While mainstream history attributes this to Bolshevik planning and Marxist ideology, some contend that the speed and precision with which these events unfolded hint at the involvement of an external force. Likewise, during the Cold War, numerous coups and revolutions occurred with startling precision. The Iranian Revolution of 1979, the collapse of communist regimes across Eastern Europe in 1989, and even the Arab Spring of the 2010s all followed patterns eerily similar to earlier revolts. In many cases, mysterious groups funneled resources to rebels, ensured the timely disappearance of key figures, and manipulated public sentiment through underground publications. Could this have been the work of the Red Hand Society, ensuring that the cycle of revolution and reconstruction continued? While some dismiss the Red Hand Society as historical fiction, others believe they continue to operate in the shadows, influencing global events under new guises. Some theorists argue that elite think tanks, secretive financial institutions, and intelligence agencies are modern-day vessels for the Red Hand's agenda. The question remains, if they do exist, what is their ultimate goal? Are they anarchists ensuring that no power remains absolute, or are they kingmakers selecting the rulers of tomorrow? Leaked documents, anonymous whistleblowers, and the patterns of political destabilization seen across modern history fuel speculation that an unseen force remains at play. Whether the Red Hand Society is a myth, a centuries-old fraternity, or an ever-evolving network adapting to the modern age, its alleged influence on revolutions and regime changes remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries. The existence of the Red Hand Society remains unproven, yet their alleged fingerprints appear scattered across the pages of history. From the Roman Republic's fall to the upheavals of the modern world, they are whispered to have guided revolutions with an almost supernatural prescience. Perhaps they are nothing more than a convenient myth, an attempt to rationalize the chaotic nature of political change. Or perhaps, in the deepest shadows of power, a secretive brotherhood continues to sculpt the world in its own image, ensuring that no ruler remains unchallenged and no empire stands unshaken.